Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Simpson, and I'd like to welcome you back to another Tech Talk in our series sponsored by Bracklet. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Nuel Seo to give us a brief talk about CI/CD. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it on over to you, Nuel.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Bracklet, for sponsoring this Tech Talk. My name is Nuel Seo, and tonight I'm going to talk about CI/CD. So here are things this presentation will cover tonight. What is CI/CD? Software development lifecycle, the CI/CD pipelines, the CI/CD best practices and tools, and the summary. So let's get into it. Let's first talk about what's CI/CD. So what is CI? Also known as continuous integration. CI refers to the practice of integrating your code changes into a shared source code repository where it happens automatically and frequently. This process ensures that your commit is safe to merge into the main branch. And now let's move on to the CD, also known as continuous delivery and/or continuous deployment. Both continuous delivery and continuous deployment refers to automating further changes of the CI/CD pipeline. And we're going to go over about CI/CD pipeline later in the slides. In a nutshell, continuous delivery is a practice where code changes are automatically built, tested, and prepared for release at any point in the development cycle. Meanwhile, continuous deployment takes continuous delivery a step further by automatically deploying every code change that passes that automated test to production. So let's see this picture. This picture shows a difference in continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Continuous delivery is a practice where every code change is automatically built, tested, and prepared for the release. However, just like we see in this picture, only the deployment part is not automatic. Instead, the release is triggered manually by a human decision. This allows the developer teams to have more control over when new features or updates are released to users. All right, so we kind of covered what CI/CD is, but some words still feel like buzzwords. Okay, so let's dive deeper into the next chapter to understand the CI/CD better. And we're going to talk about software development lifecycle, also known as SDL. Every software development goes through this cycle called software development lifecycle. So in a nutshell, there are five stages. First, plan, second, design, third, build, fourth, test, and release. Let's learn more about each step. So first off, planning. In this initial phase, project goals, requirements, and constraints are defined. So stakeholders collaborate to outline the scope of the software project and establish the budget and timeline and maybe potential risks. This phase is the ideation part of the project and sets a foundation for development process. Next is design. Once the requirements are all set, the system architecture and detailed design are planned. This involves creating blueprints and diagrams to visualize how the software will function and how different components will interact. The design phase ensures that the software solution aligns with the project goals and requirements. Third, building or developing. In this building phase, developers start putting their ideas into code based on the outline laid out in the previous phase. This step involves implementing the functionality, integrating different parts together, and ensuring that code follows the standards and best practices. After that, testing comes next. After the development phase, the software undergoes this rigorous testing to identify and rectify defects or bugs. So various testing techniques are employed, including unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and user acceptance testing. So testing stage remains ongoing, interestingly, even after deployment to ensure the quality of the product. And lastly, the next stage is to release. Once the software passes testing, it is deployed to the production environment or made available to the users. During this page, the software gets bundled up and ready for sharing. This involves tasks such as making installation files, guides, and writing documentation. Also, this phase requires working with people like project managers, developers, testers, and even users to put everything together just smoothly. Following deployment, the software enters the maintenance phase, where ongoing support, updates, and enhancements are provided to address issues, improve performance, and accommodate changes in user needs or technology. So, as the name stated, it's a cycle. But here, we still have one question to answer. What does our presentation's topic, CI/CD, have to do with the lifecycle? To answer the question, let's dive into the CI/CD pipelines. So, why don't we go back to the software development lifecycle one more time? Here, we see it. Okay, this slide, we saw it. So, what's a CI/CD again? The definition of CI/CD as a whole is as follows: a set of practices in software development aimed at automating the integration of code changes, testing, and deployment applications. So let's see how CI/CD pipelines are related to SDL. The SDL refers to the entire software development processes, including planning, development, testing, deployment, and maintenance. A CI/CD pipeline, in the meantime, is a specific set of practices and tools integrated into SDL on automating integration of code changes, testing them, and deploying them to production environments. Think of a CI/CD pipeline as a system that helps developers make their work faster and more reliable. So when developers write codes, the system automatically checks it for mistakes and then integrates it with the rest of the project. That's the CI part. Then it smoothly sends a code to where it needs to go, and that's the CD part. This whole process happens automatically, ensuring everything runs smoothly behind the scenes, from making sure the software works well to getting to users faster. So the practices in a CI/CD pipeline includes committing change, building, checking the outcome, running test, checking the test outcome, delivery, and deploying. All right, so we now have some understanding of CI/CD. So CI/CD, in a simplest term, is deployment practices. Now let's take a look at the best practices for CI/CD and then the tools used. Best practices for continuous integration, CI, includes committing the code frequently, followed by automated packaging and compilation processes. What's also essential is utilizing a version control system for developers to track changes accurately. And after merging the changes, automating validation steps is also a good practice to ensure that there is no error in the changes. These practices help developers detect the issue early and maintain the code quality. And next up, we have best practices for CD. First, use automated tools to quickly and reliably deploy changes to your software. Also, roll out changes gradually to a small group of users at a time instead of at all once. It's also important to keep an eye on your software after it's been updated and be ready to switch back to a previous version if there are any issues. Moreover, control which features are active in your software without needing to change the code, so you can test new things very easily. And don't forget to keep getting feedback from users and other people involved in the project so you can keep making improvements. Let's now talk about CI/CD tools. First, Jira for planning and also maintenance. And we have GitHub and Webpack for implementation. And there is Jest for testing, and it's particularly for JavaScript codebase. Jenkins is for deployment automation, and Docker for also deployment. So Jenkins helps with automating tasks, while Docker helps packaging and deploy applications. And let's summarize. So we covered what continuous integration and continuous delivery or continuous deployment are. It also introduces the software development lifecycle, SDL, and explains CI/CD pipelines and the role the CI/CD pipeline plays in the SDL. This presentation also explained the best practices for implementing the CI/CD, as well as the tools used in practice. Thank you for your time and your presence. I hope this lecture opened a gateway to CI/CD for everyone here tonight. Now I'll open the floor for everyone who has any question. If not, if anyone has a following question or wants to stay connected after this talk, please don't hesitate to reach out over email, GitHub, or LinkedIn. Here are the references that helped me prepare this tech talk. Thanks again, everyone, and back to you, Sean.
Thanks, Noel, for that informative talk. And thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. We'll see you at the next one.